Welcome to the next episode of the Dark Web Deacon. Before we begin, be sure to smash that subscribe button, click the bell to turn on notifications. New videos are published every Monday and Thursday, and as always, be sure to like and provide comments. After a data breach or a security incident that potentially impacts your identity, the advice experts often give is to freeze or lock your credit file, and they use those terms interchangeably. But what is the real difference between a credit freeze and a credit lock? And when should I do one versus the other? Here's the 30-second pitch, and you can skip the rest of the video if you like. But they are the same in terms of functionality. Both will freeze your credit file and prevent lenders from opening up credit in your name. And also they're the same in the fact that neither negatively impacts your credit score if you decide to do either a credit freeze or a credit lock. The differences, however, are several. One is in terms of cost. Freezes are free, locks can be free, but sometimes are not. The process to lock or freeze vary depending on credit bureau. The guarantees associated with both. A freeze is guaranteed legally, where a lock is there are no guarantees that a lock is effective. How long they last? Generally both last forever. However, with credit freezes, sometimes they can be limited to 7 years depending on a state. And then in terms of exceptions, both block lenders. However, with a credit freeze, both employee background and insurance companies doing any checking of your credit file will also be blocked with a freeze. So let's dive into the details. Federal law allows you to request a credit freeze, also known as a security freeze, at no cost. A security freeze is designed to restrict access to your credit report and help protect you from credit fraud resulting from identity theft. When you place a security or credit freeze on your report, you'll be provided with a personal identification number, a PIN, or password. There is no fee to freeze or unfreeze your file. Keep in mind, though, that security freezes need to be initiated with each of the three credit agencies, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Now, credit locks. A credit lock operates similar to a credit freeze in terms of restricting access to your credit report. Credit locking services allow you to lock or unlock your credit report in real time without having to remember a PIN or using your mobile device or submitting any type of paperwork directly to the credit bureaus. It is important to remember that credit lock only locks a single credit report. To protect your credit, you need to lock your report with all three credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Unfortunately, there is no universal credit lock where if you lock it with one of the bureaus, it gets locked with all three. So again, much like credit freezes, this is a process that would require you to set up an account with each of the three bureaus in order to lock or unlock them. Credit freeze and credit lock, how are they the same? They're the same in two ways. Number one is functionality. Both freezing and locking prevent potential lenders from accessing your credit file. And the other way they are exactly the same is the impact to your score. Neither freezing nor locking your credit file will impact your score. When your credit file is locked or frozen, it still can go up and down based on how you currently use the credit that's available to you. Now the differences between credit freeze and credit lock. The first item is cost. Credit freezes are free, and this is by law. Credit locks vary in cost from free to a monthly charge of up to $10 as part of a subscription depending on the credit bureau. Next up is process. Credit freezes require you to fill out online forms and mail in documentation to the credit bureaus. Please check out my previous video on freezing your child's credit file, which is the exact same process that applies to freezing credit files for adults, for more information and a step-by-step video on exactly what to do. Credit locking requires you to sign up for an online account with the credit bureaus. Next up is exceptions. Aside from lenders being blocked, do credit freezes or credit locks block employee background checks or insurance companies checking credit history? For credit freezes, the answer is yes. The process does block employers and insurance companies
However, with credit locks, the answer is no. It does not block employers doing background checks or insurance companies checking credit history. Next is guarantees. Unlike a freeze, which does have legal guarantees, credit locks do not offer guarantees. Service agreements for each bureau make it clear that the companies don't guarantee error-free operation or uninterrupted services from credit locks. How long does it last? Credit freezes mostly last forever. Some states do have a 7-year limit, so when you do go to freeze your credit file, you're going to have to verify with the credit bureau, depending on the state you live in, if that 7-year limit applies. Credit locks do last forever, and it is upon the consumer to make a change to either unlock or relock the service. Next up is PIN codes. A PIN code is required every time you want to freeze or unfreeze your credit. The PIN codes for Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion will all be different, so you'll need to go to the websites of each company to freeze or unfreeze your credit report. Credit locks require no PIN codes and are merely a feature you turn on and off as part of the account options when you create an account online or via the mobile app with the credit bureaus. So based on all this information, when should I freeze my credit file versus locking my credit file? Well, here's the Dark Web Deacon's simple advice to you. If you have had your identity stolen, including your social security number, freeze your credit file for at least 2 years across all 3 credit bureaus. If you have children under the age of 18, freeze their credit file across all 3 credit bureaus until they're ready to start to use credit. If you're just worried about your identity and maybe have been a victim of a breach in the past that has impacted things like your email or phone number, go ahead and lock your credit in one of the bureaus with credit monitoring in place. Now, there is a third option. There are times that simply placing a fraud alert on your credit file is also beneficial. A fraud alert is essentially a short-term soft lock. Per the FTC, a fraud alert requires companies to verify your identity before extending you credit. Usually that means calling you to check if you're really trying to open a new account. Fraud alerts usually last 90 days, but can be in place for up to a year at no cost to you. So kind of a quasi credit freeze / credit lock are these fraud alerts. You can call into the credit bureaus, verify your identity, and they can put on these temporary locks on your credit file for a short period of time. Fraud alerts are very beneficial in that they're not as onerous to set up as a credit freeze with the paperwork and the PIN codes. And they don't require you to set up a subscription service with one of the 3 credit bureaus and potentially have to pay an ongoing fee. So if you are a victim of a data breach or you think you may be the victim of a data breach, fraud alerts are a great way to kind of temporarily lock your credit files fairly quickly without signing up for an account and going through the hassle of a complete credit freeze indefinitely. Thanks for watching, and as always, please like, subscribe, and provide comments, and turn on notifications by clicking the bell in order to check out future videos published twice a week.